Hey, good afternoon, Edwin. How are you doing?
Hi, Magic. Good afternoon. See you again. Great.
Great, great. I've been traveling last week, and sorry we couldn't have a conversation, but I went to US. I had a chance to participate in a really cool event. Uh, I went to Florida to Orlando. As a matter of fact, you know what happened? I landed in Florida in Orlando on Tuesday, which was the day of the elections.
Oh, yeah.
So I was expecting a lot of people on the streets and a lot of kind of discussions and everything. It wasn't like that at all. I was actually surprised.
Yeah, I can imagine. But
Yeah,
what do you want to do there? What did you do there?
I went to an event called IT Nation, which was like I think about 5,000 MSPs from the US. Um, they were invited there by the company called ConnectWise, and that's a very interesting industry. I mean, you appreciate that because you kind of a channel specialist, channel expert. So this is a very interesting concept because a lot of people that went there are in this new kind of an SLA driven. It's not very new, but it's kind of a modern SLA driven business model that delivers much bigger margin, much better margins than the traditional reseller business. And I went there because a lot of resellers uh, that are my friends from the old HP days are now thinking about transition to this MSP model. They realize that the valuations of the companies that are MSPs that have a SLA driven business, recurring business, SLA driven business can be up to 8, maybe even 10 times higher than the reseller valuation. And they're thinking about like how and the margins are way better. The typical margin in the reseller business is low double digit, sometimes a
Yeah,
high
yeah,
single digit.
correct.
Uh, and the CEO of ConnectWise, when he went on stage, he started to talk about margins that could improve from 50% to 58%. So if you are an MSP, if you are a reseller and you look at this data, you think like, oh my goodness, what's going on?
That's great. Yeah, my last week actually, I'm developing now. So that's interesting what you said. That's from a MSP business perspective. And I looked last week from a more personal perspective, and we discussed a lot of topics. Um, and I have my podcast, and I'm now thinking about how can I share all the valuable knowledge out of that podcast to people. So I'm working on an ebook with all the tips that the guests are giving. And beside that, I'm developing kind of mentoring services so that people can leverage my experience from the last 15, 20 years. So actually, people are 15 years behind me in age or in experience. Um, how they can cope with all the pressure, health, building a company, investing, how to balance between personal life and business. Um, so I'm developing a service around that. So that was my big week last week to work on that, and I think it's looking great now.
It's interesting that you say that because last week also, because we are some of the companies have been wrapping up their fiscal year. By the end of October, some other companies having a kind of a closing their books, the fiscal year in November December timeframe. It's an interesting thing that you bring up, because I have received a couple of calls from my friends saying that they are very nervous about companies potentially giving them a notice. And that got me really thinking, Edwin, because you probably, and I as well, we both have a bit of a understanding and experience how this transition is going to look like, how the last couple of weeks at the company are going to look like. And I wanted to kind of compare my thoughts and my memories from the exit, maybe with your thoughts. What do you think?
I think yeah, let's do that, because if we look back now, and we both left on different way, but it doesn't matter. I mean, at the end, you leave the company, and especially, I mean, with a big corporation, a lot of people work there for a long period, not a couple of years, but even after a couple of years. But a lot of people work there 10, 15, 20, sometimes 30 years. So it's part of their life. It's maybe half, it's more than half of their life. They worked for a certain company. So it's part of their personality, of who they are, how they feel, their friends, their colleagues. They spent 40, 50, 60 hours a week with this company for the last 25 years. So yeah, it's part of their life. So let's discuss that, how we perceive it, the positive side of it, but also maybe some examples of some stories we heard, and that hopefully we can help people in how they cope with it.
I I'm thinking about this. I'm looking back, and the number one thing that came to my mind, most of the calls that I received last week, and they probably will come this week as well, were from people in the US. And my take is, like, first of all, it's going to be different than the European setup. In Europe, the notice period is a little bit longer. So I guess I had a little bit more time to think through my exit strategy from the company. I worked 25 years for the same company, and obviously that means that I had a lot of personal connection to the to my employer. I mean, there's no way you can basically cut yourself off day one. But I had like a couple of months to think through the exit strategy and carefully plan a lot of kind of ideas and things that I wanted to do before I finally left. Like I was removed from the payroll and from the system. But I think about a lot of my friends in the US that typically get, I don't know, 2 weeks notice, and that's it. And I'm thinking
Yeah,
about
and after 2 weeks they are out of the system and off the payroll.
the out of the system and off the payroll. They get a severance package, or maybe there is a severance package with a delay. But I think normally people, and I'm not talking about only HP, but also from other companies where I have some friends. Normally the notice period is like 2 weeks or something. That's very little time to do much. And I think, one thing that I notice, once they get this notification, they behave like nothing happened. I mean, they are in shock, obviously, but they kind of keep on thinking about the work that they do rather than themselves, which I
Yeah, I
find.
think I think a good interesting stuff. At one of my former colleagues, he was notified. So and you have an appointment in a certain meeting room, and HR is there, and then they notify you that your job is obsolete or whatever reason can be. And they say, and they give you the freedom to go home, because this is a shocking news. So you don't want to stay. You want to go home and go to your family, friends. And what happened is that the guy, after that meeting, he was notified, he went back to his desk and he continued working. Because yeah, but I have a customer, I have colleagues, I have a meeting. And so they don't, I think it's a shock. They don't realize that the message was, hey, your job is obsolete. You're gonna leave the company. It ends here, and you can go home now to take time to realize what's going on. So I think from an advice between brackets point of view, and I think we discussed it earlier, you have to be very think about yourself. It sounds strange, but you have to continue, and the company will run also without you, and also the team, and also your colleagues. Um, so yeah,
I
take
think
your
this is an
time.
important message, Edwin. I think this is an important message to anybody kind of getting this kind of a unpleasant news, right?
Yeah,
Because and it depends. Honestly, like there will be managers and managers. Some managers will deliver this message with respect and with empathy, and they'll make sure that they'll give you an advice. They'll have a conversation with you. They'll help you to manage the exit from the organization, because many times in many of the situations, this kind of a situation is not caused by the performance of a person. It's really caused by the fact that somebody made a decision about exiting from a certain market or market segment, reducing presence in the market segment, ditching a part of the product portfolio, or there is just a merger and there's more than one finance department, and there have to be some reductions made. So it's not a
yeah,
reflection.
just reorganization of the structure of the company, that your job or
Exactly.
your layer is just disappearing, or because it's not coming back in a new design. So that's very normal. I mean,
That
companies
happens.
adapt to
This
what's
is not a
happening.
shame, right?
Yeah.
This is not a shame. And good managers are able to manage this exit properly. But there might be, like, if you are getting this kind of a situation when your boss is an asshole, right? And he's not behaving like he should be. He's not treating you with respect. That's also not your fault. That's not your problem. That his or her problem, that she wasn't trained or doesn't have a wasn't born with the empathy. Maybe like this happens. Bad bosses happen in even
And
in
so
the
what
best
you actually
organization.
say, when you go to a grieving process, you get anger, you get sad, you get mad, you are getting tears, you are happy, you are maybe relieved. And I mean, I just gave the example of that people continue working after they get notified. The other side is, I mean, it's a small world. Very often your experience of your job is in a certain industry. So just an example that I did, I finished everything that was possible I could fix, or that I could finish. Um, One-on-ones, yearly conversations, budgeting, quota settings, everything around plans, business plans. So I want to leave it as a very clean, tidy. Um, I want to leave the company with also feeling for myself that I left everything behind, that so somebody else can pick it up and continue it. So I don't want to leave a mess. I mean, that at least that was my feeling. That's opposite to what I just said. Think about yourself, but that's what my feeling. So I felt very confident and very happy actually that I was able to finish all the things and then leave the company.
But my point is that admin, and obviously you don't want to drop the ball on
No,
stuff, especially
at
on the
least
people that are dependent on you, right? You don't want to kind of behave like you don't care about anybody anymore, because that's not the point. I think my point is that if you don't put yourself into this equation, let's say you're working in the US and your notice period is 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, your access to a lot of information that even belong to you will be cut off. I give you an example. When I worked for HP, I was a little bit prepared for this, because working for HP twice I had to change my email address. So I remember when we moved from Compaq to HP, my Compaq email address at certain point in time expired. I got a notification that it's going to expire, and the company gave me like several months or maybe a year to deal with that. But I had just naturally, because I was working for the company for such a long time, I used my compact email address to log into services that were useful for me for work, but were not paid by the company or related to a company directly. Subscription to the newspapers, okay,
magazines,
news, right? This kind of stuff.
newsletters for your job, for
Newsletter
information.
for my job, right?
Print.
Different, even news from the market. Like I had tickers of a different companies or competitors, and I wanted to receive a news from about the competitors. So I obviously wanted this to be sent over to my company address because I use that for my work. But in the meantime, it became an interesting source of information about the market that I didn't want to lose, with all the kind of settings and setups at Yahoo Finance on a different, analysis and everything else. So I obviously wanted to retain the access to this information, including my stock information and other investments. So take the 2 weeks and in your mind go through all the different logins that you've done. For as an example, all the different logins. Think about the pictures that you have taken with your friends at the last Top Achievers Club, and make sure that you keep them. I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping the pictures of your rewards or the kind of activities that you've done with your friends from the company. Remember, the moment 2 weeks are gone, your notice period is gone, and you are cut off from the network, you are going to lose an access to that. And there's nothing that anybody can do. There's no asking or anybody to retain, because the system automatically disables your email address.
But also at the end, delete everything. Format your disk of your laptop because you have to then you have to hand in your notebook and your utility device because everything is owned by the company. So I think your message is think about you are cut off in all kind of ways. What should you need after the 2 weeks or 2 months, whatever the notification period is, so that you can continue. I mean, compared with what happens if all your stuff is stolen, what do you really lose? I mean, the hardware is not the issue; it's what you said, the private stuff. So,
So,
and
so
that
what I've
helps,
done,
that
and
helps
to
you
be
to,
honest,
yeah,
to those friends, I said, go. The best thing to do is, because one more thing, is you don't want to be idle. You don't want to sit there at home and kind of cry in front of a mirror, right? Or just, I don't know, or despair, sit and despair. It's better to put yourself into some kind of an action mode. So what I told my friends is, go to the nearest shop, buy a new laptop, and close your current laptop and restart a new one. It's like restarting your life from the scratch.
yeah,
Start a new laptop now, today. You have 2 weeks, and start doing everything on your new laptop now without connecting to your former employer network, okay? Because you don't want to do anything illegal, right? You don't want to
not for
download
sure.
any data that doesn't belong to you. So just make sure that you start working in your own new environment, completely new environment. And if you see that there is something that is private to you that you are missing from your old laptop, just go there and change stuff, okay? But that will help you to cut off yourself a little bit from the work and kind of assimilate over the 2 weeks how is it going to look like, because you will find out that very quickly you need to set up your new email address, maybe buy yourself a domain, uh, maybe you'll have to pay for a license for, I don't know, either Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, something, because up until now you were using HP or your company, HP, Dell, Cisco, Lenovo, whatever, your Microsoft, Google, you've been using the licenses that belong to the company maybe, and in 2 weeks you won't be able to do that legally. So you'll have to change and switch, right?
not only not legally, you are not able to access anymore. So you don't have the license, so it won't work.
Exactly. It's even worse than that because it
It won't
won't
work.
work. So if you buy a new laptop, it's a funny kind of a new opening in life that you are testing while you are for 2 weeks still employed. You have a kind of this overlap period where you will start working on your new laptop with your new email, with your new stuff, and see for 2 weeks because again, after 2 weeks, your access is gone, your information that you had is gone, and I think this is a good testing ground to see whether you can survive without the information on your.
And this is from a practical point of view. That reminds me on, and I don't know whether it's possible in all companies. I mean, you're gonna lose your phone, whether the phone is from the company owned or a private one. If it's company owned, you lose the hardware of your phone, so you have to buy a new phone. But the most important thing for me was the telephone number. So I was able to keep and to
Yeah,
transfer the number from the company subscription to a private subscription. So they allow that. There was a kind of form I had to fill in, and the telephone company organized the transfer of the telephone number. So that was for me very important because your network and your connection, whether it's private or business wise, are very often connected to your phone number. People looking for you buy or give you a call or send you WhatsApp or whatever, it's connected to your phone number, but also friends. And you can, of course, always notify my number is going to change as per and then the date, and people are going to change, but a lot of people don't. And at the end, they will find you. But it's so much easier that you keep the number because I had once a director, and he had his number already for more than 30 years. He said, my whole life is connected to the number, also from the past. So I think it's
yes,
very good for
your
you.
your bank accounts, your multi-factor authentication,
Also, yeah,
SMS,
also.
everything.
Yeah.
True. This is another very good observation, Edwin. And I think in the US, a lot of people don't have a company mobile phone, but some
Um,
of them do.
yeah.
And I need to say that I did experience a problem transitioning my personal number. So my company number to me. And I totally agree with you because again, if you are within those 2 weeks, if you are within your company systems, okay, you can escalate. You can ask. You can connect with the right people. It's much easier for you to reach, to somebody internally to help you from the IT support or what name you to help you to transition your company number to your personal number because you might find some problems. I did find a problem because one of my numbers that I had at HPE was from my time when I lived in Germany. So it was a German number. Now I live in Poland. So there was a glitch in the system because the template did not assume that somebody will be transferring German number to a Polish person. So there was not even a place where you could change the country, right? So I ran into some problems. Luckily, I started the transition early, still when I was, in this kind of a notice period, so I could do all the transfers and escalate, and people helped me to get this done. But I had all my German accounts and a lot of kind of from my prior life in Germany, I have a lot of connections there connected to my German number. That would probably be gone if I didn't act correctly, during this kind of a notice period. And again, my situation was a little bit better because of a European legal situation. In the US, you have 2 weeks to get your laptop, your kind of a stuff organized, your telephone number transferred to you. I mean, there are other, kind of resources that you should consider, like there are recognition points or awards or whatever that you should probably use.
Yeah, I agree. This is all practical. I think this is very practical to do as soon as they can continue after 2 or 3 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever it may be. From a personal perspective, what I say, you go to a grieving process, and it's very easy to say now, accept it. Whether it's tears, whether it's anger, whether it's happiness, you have to go through it. And for some, it's a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but accept it. And talk to people outside the organization who've run through this process before, because it happens very often in the world. So you're not alone. You're gonna lose something, and I think we both can say from experience. And it sounds very, yeah, I mean, bullish or whatever. If one door is closed, another one will open. And I can tell you, although I had a great time with the company I work for, HP, there is so much outside the company you work for, so much new opportunities, new insights, new knowledge, new experience, new people. I mean, and you keep the knowledge and the experience you brought from the last 10, 20, 30 years is part of you. So you bring a lot, and you
Yes,
have a lot
this
of
is
value
this is
with
what I
you.
said
So be
to
proud of
one of
that.
my friends. We are always gonna be employed, right? There's no, I mean, there's no lack of work out there for you, because when you leave after 20, 30 years, company with so much experience, very unique in a way, because it's typically international. You have you have an experience running very complex in a very running in a very complex environment, and a lot of people can use your experience. The challenge is, I think the only challenge that people will be facing is whether they can monetize this work. So there'll be a lot of people that will reach out to you and say like, hey, I want your advice, I want your help, I want this and that. And the question is, how are you going to monetize? How are you going to turn all your knowledge into an income, all your work into an income? But because there's no shortage of work. When you when you leave the company, there'll be tons of things for you to do. Whether you, I mean, choose the stuff that you like to do and test it out. That's the
So then
recommendation that he
then
gave
you're
me.
assuming that people start on their own and not being employed by another company.
They could, but what I'm saying is, Edwin, is they shouldn't assume that day one they will be employed by another company. So they should really start doing something that they like, just not to sit down and, as you said, that helps to move on, move to the next stage. Okay. And also, like, it helps also in the discussions with the future employers, because you are no longer talking about the bad boss that you had, or the departure, or the problems, or whatever. Your mindset is changing to a positive, to the new steps, kind of a next move, and you focus on your ideas, what you want to do next, not what was hurting you in the past.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. This transition is important.
Yeah, yeah, correct. And what you just said is, I think, and that makes it sometimes challenging, but also nice. Take the time to think about who are you, what do you really like, what gives you energy, what drives you, and what makes you happy. And it sounds very small or very big and heavy, but give an example for yourself. Look at yourself and see when you do things and it's 10 o'clock in the evening, you're not done, but you're still going and going and going because you like it so much. And if you do that other stuff, even if it's 10 minutes, it feels like ages. I mean the text submissions I don't like every year. It's a nightmare for me. So it's not my job, so I outsource, by the way. But the other things I keep going on because I like it so much. So I think from experience, I know, look what you really like. And yes, what we have discussed also very often together is, if you know what you like, how to monetize that, because at the end you have to earn somewhere some money. And I think that sometimes a challenge, but if you good at it something and you really like it and you have the knowledge, you have the value, you can share it. And I did it now in the beginning with focus on my health, focus on how I'm investing, and I'm now sharing with other people what I did. People can learn from it, and I'm now building services around it so that people can hire me, or I can consult them and mentor them in the process to getting healthier, fitter, how to invest, where to invest, do what you like. building a company. So, I mean, there are so much opportunities out there. So I think look at what you really want, because there's so much else to do.
If you have challenges, the listeners, if you feel like you could use some help, I can offer, like find me through LinkedIn and book some time with me. I'm happy to chat about my thoughts. If you want to kind of bounce some of the ideas, uh, Edwin, I don't know if you're ready for such
Yeah,
a such
I'm,
a such a move.
I'm open for that. I mean,
But
uh,
if we worked in the past together, and you feel like I could be a good sounding board and a good help, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to do that.
yeah, me too. I mean, and we catch up after that, and we are still in contact with each other. We have nice discussions together. We help each other. So at the end, you realize it doesn't matter what kind of function you had in the previous company, how big your network is. And I think we have both have examples. You give me a name, somebody you know, I don't know, and we get familiar with each other, and the other way around. So think about also about how big is your network and who can help you, because people are willing to help you. And by the way,
Absolutely.
your colleagues don't disappear from the earth. I mean, you're no longer employed, but you can still reach out to those people if you want. Why not?
That's
Especially if
true.
they are friends, because very often after 30 years you have really friends within your company.
That's true. Edwin, thank you so much for the chat today, and well, we'll speak again in 2 weeks, and maybe
Yeah,
we can share some more stories and ideas to those who are impacted and are searching for their
yeah.
new directions and new life.
And they
Thank
can
you
reach
so
out
much.
to you or to me, no problem.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Magic. Bye bye.